Gentle Yoga at noon. We're here at the ACC's community room, and our practice involves basically warming up the first 5 minutes of class. We'll be using a modified walking meditation to kind of just get some of the, the bones moving, the muscle groups moving, and we just get a little heat generated at that point. Then we'll work on some balancing poses and make our way down to the mat eventually. Today's class is a continuation of our balance and our limbs, hip openers that we've been working with for the last few weeks. We need a chair for today's class, so if you have one without arms, that would be great. If you don't have one, that's fine too. We'll just make do. If you have any sort of seated position where your knees can come down to about the hip level, that's sort of what we're looking for in having that chair. If you're comfortable with going down to the floor, the other alternative is obviously the traditional just sitting in an easy seated position. So whether you want to do some of these exercises on the floor or in the chair, you'll have that opportunity to decide. But have a chair nearby if you do want to use the chair. So having said that, we'll go ahead and start at the back of the mat, turning on just a little bit of music. But as you arrive at the back of the mat, just give yourself a moment to just check in. Feeling the mat under the feet, noticing how the legs feel. We're in our home base of mountain, keeping a slight bend to the knees if you need. Feet are about hips distance apart. And as we settle in, we'll start to quiet down. We can begin to cultivate the breath. Let's go ahead and bring our left palm to rest on our chest. Right palm is under the belly button. And as you breathe for the next few breath cycles, the inhales, the pause, the exhale, and pause. Each breath cycle, you'll begin to quiet down. Heart might feel a little quieter. And now we'll begin. Inhaling deeply. Feel the inhale reach even the top, the crown of the head, feeling the collarbones lift, if you will, at the top of the inhale. Pausing briefly, and begin to exhale with a little more control as well. At the end of the exhale, go ahead and engage the belly button hand, the core. And as you breathe in and out for the next few breath cycles, just notice how the energy travels through the body. Rib cage expands on the inhale. Perhaps you're feeling a little more rooted in the legs and the feet, core engaged at the bottom of the exhale. And then we'll bring the sound of the ocean to the back of the throat. Go ahead and widen that space. You'll hear something akin to a stadium roar, an ocean wave, a deep sigh. And connecting to this yogic breath, this ocean-like breath. We can go ahead and bring our hands to rest at the side. You can connect to that breath at any moment. Just be aware of it. Go ahead and reset the feet. You can roll to the toes, roll to the heels, and then settling in, hopefully feeling more of the mat under the feet. Let's go ahead and inhale. Feel that lifting energy from the feet, from the earth, traveling up through to the crown of the head. And on the exhale, feel that energy returning, reverse order, down the legs, back to the mat. At the bottom of that exhale, engage the core. Feel a little more rooted at the feet. Inhaling, slowly tip the center of gravity towards the toes. Body is long and tall. Just stop at that edge, hopefully coordinating with the breath. Use the next breath. Start to roll the center of gravity towards the heels. And just notice how the changes, those subtle changes as you move from heel to toe for the next few breath cycles. And then we'll settle back at center somewhere at the top of the ankles, near to the heels. Drop on into your home base of mountain, and then reset it. Inhale, lengthen through the legs. Reach up a little more with the sternum, lengthening. And as you inhale all the way to the top of the crown of the head, go ahead and exhale. Start to roll the weight towards the outer right edge of the feet. Fully exhaled to the right. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale over to the other side. And for the next couple of breath cycles, just find that mapping under the feet of the side-to-side movement you're making right now. And then find yourself back at center, somewhere above the ankles, back in home base of mountain once more. We'll go ahead and reset. Do any movement that feels good. Lift the feet if you need. And inhale, lifting from the feet all the way up the body, through the spine, to the crown of the head and beyond. Go ahead and bring your See, we're going to bring the circles around the ankles. Go ahead and start bringing the circles from one direction in small circles at the ankles, going a little wider towards the edge of the feet until the perimeter of the feet are found. And we'll go ahead and start tightening in those circles. Once that perimeter has been found, come all the way back to center, dropping on in. Go ahead and reset, inhaling once more. Nice and tall at the crown of the head, and make small circles in the opposite direction. Small circles working larger and largening, getting to the perimeter of the feet. And once that's identified, go ahead and tighten in the circles and meet back at center, like water going down a drain. Go ahead and bend the knees, give yourself a gentle bounce. Lift one foot, lift the other. We'll move on up the body. We're going to just start shifting our weight from side to side, and then keeping the feet down on the mat. We're going to start swiveling at the top of the shoulders. Imagine as we make more of the torso available to one side, we're going to lift the toes and pivot on the heels. We don't want to torque out the knees too much. So as you're making these small movements, you're just finding that swiveling action, the swaying action, just moving gently the ankles, the hips, shoulders, maybe even a little in the knees, but not too much. And then we'll let that energy gently peter off and decrease until we meet back at center. Bringing the feet back in, underneath the hip bones, reset our mountain once more, and we're moving on up to the shoulders now. So as we're moving up the body, we want to see if you're really tented in the hips, see if you can gently tuck under the tailbone, press down on the legs and lengthen through those legs. Start to bring the tailbone under and press forward those hips and the legs as a whole. Starting to lengthen through the legs all the way up so that as we reach the shoulders now, palms facing forward, just nice and relaxed. Inhale, shoulders lift all the way up. Exhale, roll them back and then down. Fully exhaled, engage the core. We're doing a total of 4 of these rounds. Inhaling the shoulders up and then rotating them back and down on the exhale. And if you can imagine with each inhale, just energy entering the body, lengthening, and on the exhale, energy finding any achiness and releasing it through the exhale. One last one for me, and then we're going to repeat a second round, but this time, instead of exhaling back, we're going to exhale forward the shoulders. Still tucking in the angel's wing tips at the end of that exhale. And again, a total of 4 of these. Inhaling shoulders up, rotating the shoulders forward on the exhale and down, completely relaxing them down the back at the bottom of the exhale. Don't forget your yogic breath. It'll help to facilitate each and every release. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and move on up. Resetting the mountain once more, see if you can get a little longer, a little taller in the mountain. If the legs can lengthen, don't hyperextend the knees, but gently just see if you can stack all the bones from the hips over the knees, over the ankles. And hopefully those shoulders now are on top of the hips. So as we inhale, imagine that energy lifting up all the way through the crown of the head like a string and pulling you up through to the ceiling. So all you have to do is exhale. Let the right ear dip towards the right shoulder. And breathe. Inhaling, up goes the sternum, the chest. Exhaling, turn the gaze if you haven't already and find release on the left side of the neck. As you inhale and exhale, you might even find the eyes are able to rest on the rightmost of your vision. As you hear that yogic breath, along with the breath, we'll go ahead and raise the eyes with the inhale, the gaze, the center of the head completely lifting at the top of the inhale. So all you have to do is exhale over to the left side. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning the gaze at this point. And breathing for a total of 4 breath cycles here as well. And maybe you'll find at the end of your last exhale, the eyes are resting at the left shoulder, maybe even behind the left shoulder. After that very last exhale, inhale the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head completely back up, shining towards the ceiling. So all you have to do is exhale, let the eyes lower down the gaze, landing somewhere about 6 feet in front of you, about the top of the mat. Give some length to the back of the neck and the front of the neck. As you inhale, feel a slight diagonal pull upwards towards the ceiling. Palms facing forward to help keep the shoulders rotated away from the ears. Notice if the foundation, if the soles of the feet start to roll out or in. Sometimes as we transition from pose to pose, we might lose our foundation. Just be aware of it and come on back. After your very last exhale, inhale the eyes up towards the midline, past the midline, then finally somewhat above you. If you can see, stop craning the neck and just let the length of each inhale bring length to the body. And with the release of every exhale, see if you can find any achiness that you can let go of without losing the muscle support that you need to keep this general form. A small O with the mouth to a larger O. And after your 4th exhale, let's go ahead and bring the eyes back down with the inhale, back to center. And when it rests there, go ahead and bend the knees, shake out any residual tension in the fingers, the arms, the wrists, lift the foot, lift the other foot, and give yourself a nice bounce. We'll reset our mountain, and just maybe resetting it this time, see if you can feel more of the feet, the soles of the feet down on the mat without a rolling outwards of the ankles or inwards. See if you can feel that lengthening of the legs as you press into the balls of the feet as well as the heels. Feeling more of that center at the top of the ankles and lengthening through the legs, internal rotation of the thighs as we begin our first few folds. We're going to reach downward with our fingers, just reach down. And then inhale, extend as we're still reaching. And the arms come all the way up. If they're here, that's okay. We're reaching for upwards. And then exhale, engage the core and start to hinge at the hips. You can bend the knees, and somewhere halfway down, if you need to, you can always walk the hands down to help support the back. But we're just coming to our first fold, and we're going to let the back unfold. You can keep a bend to the knees, a deep bend if it's really tight in the back of the legs. And hopefully, if you have blocks in front here, if your back is really tight, you can just lay your hands here, just for a little bit of support. Otherwise, you can also have forearms to the thighs. You can reach those fingers. Maybe it's just gravity that'll help you release a little more through the back. But you want to keep that center of gravity from the hips down to the heels, and think about releasing from the tailbone, down the spine, the neck, to the crown of the head. Our first fold is a ragdoll. It's about 5 full breath cycles. So giving yourself some time here, you might need to feel out this first ragdoll, maybe lifting the toes, swaying the hips from side to side, bending one knee, straightening it as is available, and then alternating with the other leg. Do these little things to help you release. See if you're holding on to the head. Bobble the head from left to right, forward and back. Maybe even let it dangle in a circle. And then we're going to come out of this forward fold. It's pretty lengthy, so we want to engage our core. We want to make sure that we're supported. So pressing into the feet, firming up the thighs, starting to press into the feet, tucking under the tailbone. You can walk those hands up if you need, but we're curling up one vertebra at a time. Slow roll up. See how you're feeling. Shoulders roll up, back, and down. Last thing to stack on the neck is the head. And give yourself a moment to let the blood rush back to the top of the head. Another breath or two, we'll do our second fold, reaching downward with our fingers. Inhale, extend the arms up, and at the top, maybe we might even lift up with our torso, pressing down with our feet. Engage the core, start to hinge at the hips if you need, bending the knees. We're going to fold a second time, walking the hands down if you need, or just letting your back float on down, relax. Give yourself another couple of any movements that feel good to you. You can play with the center, roll a little bit towards the toes, reset it, redefine that, make sure you're at the top of the ankles. You can also just breathe. See if you're holding on to your neck again. But unlike our first fold, we're only here for about 3 breath cycles. And then we're going to do a slow roll up once more with the core engaged, or you have the choice of coming up with a straight back. But either way, we engage the core, press into the feet, firm up the legs. Inhale, come on up, your choice, either a straight back, arms up, or a slow roll up. But at the top, we're going to reach up, and then hands in prayer, down, heart center. And here we'll begin our walking meditation, pressing into the palms, engaging the core if needed, standing weight to the left leg. Slightly lift the right foot, inhaling. Exhale it down. Heel, ball of foot, and toes down. If you're feeling really good with your balance, go ahead and lift the leg a little higher up, but no higher than the knee above the hip. Exhaling the heel, ball of foot, and toes down. It's a slow walking meditation, 1 breath cycle per step. If you feel wobbly and you fall out, that's okay. Come on back. If you feel like you can press into your hands and regain your stability, go ahead and engage the core and do so. At the top of the mat, we'll meet in mountain. Look down at your prayer hands and inhale, press into the palms, watch the fingertips rise. At the top, we can separate the palms, engage the core, start to hinge at the hips for our 3rd fold. Halfway down, you can always walk the hands down. If you have the blocks here, you can use them. If not, here at our 3rd fold, we're going to introduce a half lift, and that's just bringing the hands to wherever you have contact with your legs, your feet, your mat, your blocks. We're going to just lengthen through the legs as best as possible, as well as the mat, the back. So you might have this 90-degree angle at the hips, or it might be more of a 15-40-degree angle, but we're just lengthening through the back and the legs as is available. And then after that, we'll go ahead and exhale. Come on down, bend the knees deeply if you need, walk your hands on the blocks, or just come on down to the mat and start to walk the legs back. You might have to step a few times back, but we're going to bring the feet back all the way to the back of the mat, and then inhale. Bring those shoulders over the wrists, and then lay down the shins, bringing down the shins and the tops of the feet. And you're in a modified high plank at this point. Bring the fingers to splay out where your index and middle fingers are up towards the top of the mat. Thumbs are in between, and your shoulders are right above your wrists. If they're a little sensitive on the wrists with all that weight, just bring the shoulders back a little bit. Make sure your shins, the tops of the feet, are supporting the lower weight. And you can play with this for our first modified high plank. You're just finding length in the arms. That's good, strong support. And then one more inhale, we're going to tuck the toes, lift up the hips. Exhale, press those hips back, lengthening through the legs and the arms as is available. But you can keep a deep bend to the knees, and the heels can be lifted, but the arms, let's try to keep those nice and long. Shoulders are rotated away from the ears. So if you're bending your elbows, you'd see the points bend towards the back. Just shifting a little bit at the wrists should help. You can play with the positioning of the toes, the feet, higher up on the balls of the feet with an inhale. And then exhale, slowly let your heels lower. They'll land where they naturally will. We want to keep our ears somewhere in between our arms. And it's about 5 breath cycles here, which we're probably almost done with. So to come out, we're going to roll the eyes towards the hands, just the eyes, and then exhale. Engage the core and start to bend the knees if you need to, but walk the hands to the back of the mat. Maybe your blocks are here. Maybe your hands to the feet. Come back, feel that center of gravity at the hips. Inhale for a half lift. Exhale, fold. That's just the chest coming a little closer towards the the thighs, and then you can, again, use either the blocks, the hands to slowly walk up, but you want that center of gravity engaged, pressing into the feet, pressing into the thighs, tucking under the bones. You're either rolling up one vertebra at a time or coming up with a straight back. Hands up, and then prayer hands down, heart center, and then down to the side. We're going to go for a second walking meditation. So inhaling, hands to heart center. Go ahead, standing weight to the left leg. Lift the right foot. Exhale it down. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale that down. And as you make that slow walking meditation towards the top of the mat, one full breath cycle per step. And at the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips, pressing into the palms. Inhale, watch them rise to the top. Separate them. Exhale, engage the core. Bend the knees if you need. And float on down. Another fold. Fully exhaled here at the bottom of the fold. Inhale, half lift. Lengthen through the legs and back as you can. Exhale, bend the knees if you need. We're going to come down to another fold. Bring the hands down to your block, to the floor, and walk the hands down, feet down to the high plank this time. Inhaling, shoulders over the wrists, nice and long legs. Stick the belly button to the ribs, to the spine, and you're feeling that length from the heels all the way to the crown of the head. One more deep inhale, and then exhale. Bring the hips back, pushing into the arms, and then allowing the feet to move, allowing the heels to lower down to where they can. Maybe it's a little lower this time. Maybe adjusting the positioning between the hands and the feet to help you. Eventually we're coming to an upside down V position with our down dog, but maybe we'll have an upside down U for a while. Taking another deep inhale, rolling the eyes to the hands, prepare to walk the hands, engage that core. Exhale, the hands back to the back of the mat, to the blocks, to the thighs, to your fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold once more. Engage the core, press into the feet, engage the butt, the thighs. Come on up, your choice. Either slow roll up or strong straight back, arms up above the head, hands down, heart center, and finally down to the side. Feel the heartbeat in your heart basket. And then it's a great time for some water if you need some. And this is basically, it's just a very modified way of engaging the inner furnace. Our sun salutation is very modified in our gentle yoga class. But you're basically just walking through these motions and hopefully energizing parts of the body as a result. So after our, let me get a little water. After our first session here, we're going to, the warm-ups and the meditation, the walking meditation, we will come to a balanced position here in mountain. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just stand to the side, but stay where you are. Be giving yourself a mountain position. Come back to it now. We'll look at it with a little more intention. So feet are about hips distance apart, right underneath the hips. Feel, do you notice if there's a difference from the first time we started in our mountain? You can roll from the heels to the toes. You can roll again from the side to the other side, doing it just a little faster, just so that you can find hopefully a little length, more length, that internal rotation of the thighs, and feel as if you've got the hips stacked right on top of the ankles, on top of the, hips on top of the knees, on top of the ankles. And as we're doing that, we're thinking about the shoulders rolling back and down. I'm going to turn to the side. So hopefully at this point, we may have come to class like that, but hopefully we're coming up, we're pressing through, we're lengthening up, we're bringing a gentle tuck of the chin towards the back of the throat, just feeling that strength, really pulling up at the top of the head there. And as we come into that position then, feel like you could be standing here like this all day long. We'll go ahead and bring the arms out to the side. Just give yourself a nice star shape. We're moving the arms outward, and then we're going to bring the palms up. Go ahead and bend both elbows. And go ahead, bring right arm underneath the left elbow and just fold in that arm. The first one here is just that first initial edge you're just finding. Take another deep breath. Feel that upward lifting through the crown of the head as you inhale. And then exhale, gently see if that shoulder can relax a little closer towards the heart. And if you're really, splaying out those fingers, just relax them. We want everything to be nice and relaxed. Inhale, we'll go ahead and open up once more. Palms up, palms down, and then once more, palms up. Breathing up and in through the crown of the head, we'll go ahead and bend the elbows and bring the left arm underneath the right and bring that on over to the first edge. And it's just sliding on over. Try not to go down, try not to go up. We just want it to go straight over. And once it stops there. Give yourself another deep inhale through the crown of the head. And then exhale. See if it just relaxes a little more in towards that shoulder, towards the chest. And hopefully you're feeling a little more stretch at the top of the shoulder, along your triceps. You might even feel something along the forearm. Just depends on how tight that is. We'll go ahead and inhale, open up, and then just let them gently float back down. If you can release the glute hold, you'll feel that as you exhale. Give yourself another breath or so. And then we'll inhale, the arms come all the way up this time. If you can have them facing each other, do so. If you can have them touch palms, do so. Interlace the fingers if you can and point up with the fingers as you lengthen through the legs. We're not going to hyperextend our legs, but feel all points of the feet down. And as you're lifting up, and then exhale, hands down, heart center, and then just let them kind of float forward and back, forward and back. You might gently bring up the chin, slow movements, and then we'll let that go. Notice how your legs are feeling. See if you can bend, get that hip and glute to release for a moment. Reset your mountain here, and we'll go one more time. Up, go the arms. And this time, we're going to reach for our wrist. Now go ahead and just lift up with that, pressing through the feet, just as we did before when we were clasping our fingers. Inhaling all the way up. And then exhale. Just start to lean with the hand. You want that leg anchored down. You want to feel this lengthening. You don't need to bend at this waist. You just want the lengthening up from the armpit all the way through to that wrist being upwards. Let's go ahead and inhale all the way back up. Exhale, both hands down, heart center. Release. You might have to roll shoulders. And then we're going to do that once more for the other side. So inhaling, the hands come up. At the top, we're going to lift up, grab a hold of the opposite wrist. Exhale, feel rooted down at the feet. Inhale up, press through those balls of the feet, and then exhale, start to lean over with the hand. Get that stretch all the way from the armpit as that right foot or your same side foot is anchored downwards. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale, let the arms float down. Just relax. And then notice if you need to bend a knee and release the activation in the glutes in your foundation as well. Now, one thing I like to do is this thing too. If you have tightness in the shoulders, just let it loose after you've done your strengthening. Let it loose. You can also do this. Just kind of let them bobble like a plumb line as well in their sockets. And then we're going to press into the feet, bend the knees, engage the core, and come all the way back up. Roll those shoulders back and down, and feel your glutes relax as your bones just stack hopefully on top of one another. All righty. And then we'll go ahead and meet in a chair. So this is where you can either sit on the mat in an easy seated position. We're just going to open up our hips. And you can do it from the chair, or you can do it from the floor. And I'm pretty stiff lately, so I'm going to demonstrate from the chair, but as I saw this morning, I can do the sitting on the chair with a high elevation of the hips. So if you're in a position where you can't sit on the floor, stay on the chair. If you can sit on the floor, stay on the floor. If you are in transition, you might need a big block or two under the hips. So we're just going to sit at the edge of our chair or at the edge of our sits bones if you're on the floor, and come to this 90-degree angle at the hips. Now, if you're in the chair, just make sure your knee is bent so that you have that 90-degree angle at the knee as well as at the hips. I'm going to turn to the side just so that you have the kind of a view of that. It kind of sinks in the center there, so I'm a little off, but as far as that goes, we just want to sit either on the floor or in this chair where we're having a good idea of where our sits bones are. You might need to pelvic roll a little bit forward and back, just so that you can feel like, yes, I am sitting upright on these sits bones. And then you can make sure your left and right balance is off until you feel like that centers right there at the perineum. And then as we're sitting here for just a moment, gentle tuck of the chin here. And then we will begin to bring that easy seated position together. So if you're in the chair, what you can do is lengthen through your one leg, it's my left leg on this side, and just start by crossing the right ankle over that left shin. And then you can see how far you can bring this over. If you have to really bend back in order to bring this ankle here, then what we're going to do is just stay here, keep the leg nice and long, and start with that external rotation while you're seated. If you're sitting, what we're looking for is basically one shin in front of the other, and your knees being nice and comfortable. They shouldn't be lifted too high. If they are, you may need a block underneath. So for that, just keep the block underneath the chair, and in your easy seated position, imagine you're just one leg out in front of the other. And one ankle will not be under the opposite knee, but rather one shin out in front of the other. And then eventually we have a nice square seat as you're sitting. In our chair here, if you're able to bring that cross section here, if you're able to bring the ankle over, and eventually we need to sit upright. So we might be in that position where we're just externally rotating, bringing that right hip open. And again, if you're sitting, you might need to have that right ankle on the shin. You might need to have it here. If you're eventually getting to that easy seated position, you're just bringing the shin out in front and the other one here without having the ankle under the knee. Alrighty, and then we'll go ahead and remove the right leg. Come on up once more, sitting upright. And if you're on the mat, go ahead and switch the position of the top leg and the bottom leg. Now we're going to bring the left ankle over the right ankle. See if we can bring it up to the right knee without losing our position of our hip. If it's really tight there, then just keep your right leg down. And as you're in a seated position, you just have the top leg switched out with the bottom leg. And that's all. And you're working on bringing the sits bones and your torso above the sits bones in that upright position as you're opening up through your hips. So here we're just sitting upright. We're feeling that external rotation on the left hip or the opposite hip that you started from. And eventually bringing it up the leg when you're seated here. Or if you're on the floor, where eventually you can just have this front leg, front shin, in front of the right shin. I wish I could bring my legs up to show you, but you know. Anyhow, so bringing our legs back, let's go ahead and sit upright. Nice and upright in our 90-degree angle at the hips. And if you're on the mat, go ahead and extend to a staff position. If you're on the chair, find out what your staff position looks like. It might be bent knees with legs maybe not much longer than when you're seated, but eventually you're going to lengthen out and flex that foot. You might even need to have a block here to help you break that foot. Keep it from sliding forward, not to break the foot. Anyhow, as we're coming into a staff position now, If you're in the chair, if you're on the mat, we're sitting nice and upright and reestablish that balance at the sits bones once more. Keeping an upright position with our torso, feeling as if that string is pulling us all into alignment, shoulders over the hips, chin. Find that nice deep inhale upwards. Bring the hands to walk down your staff legs as is available to you. So for some of us, we might just need to stop here. We might need to put our feet down if we're in staff as well, if you're finding that's too much on the back of your legs. But basically, we're hinging at the hips. We're doing a fold. And we're just walking as far as we can fold only at the hips. We don't want to round the shoulders. We're folding at the hips until we stop. And if you're seated upright, if you're seated on the floor in that staff position, you're just doing the walk down at the hips once more, keeping the knees and the toes oriented towards the top. And then you stop when you can no longer hinge forward at the hips. So whether at the chair or on the floor in your staff position, then we're just going to find that edge and soften it by letting the neck relax. You might, if you feel any tension at the back of your neck, you might be able to support some of your head weight. If it feels good to just feel like a stretch is being facilitated by nature's biogravity, then feel great there. And then breathe. And at this point, we're breathing 5 to 10 breath cycles, nice and slow. Hear the ocean at the back of your throat. And quiet down. Notice how the energy translates in the body. The quieter you become, the more engaged is the parasympathetic part of your nervous system, which allows you to heal, which allows you to find space and healing. Okay. So to come out, if you're pretty full forward folded, we're going to use our hands to help lengthen through the arms, lengthen through the spine, so that we're nice and long once more and our shoulders aren't curved. And then we're going to walk the hands to help bring up the torso back to an upright position. Give yourself a nice breath or two here. And as you're in the chair, you're still with your feet gently flexed if you can. We're going to inhale nice and tall with our staff legs, and we're going to turn to the right just until our torso stops. We're not turning the shoulders and the neck, we're turning the entire torso as one unit until it stops. And then once that happens, let your left hand rest on the right thigh. Inhaling, feel that string lifting up through the crown of the head, and then exhale. See if you can gently twist a little more. Maybe it was at the waist, maybe this time it was just a little bit at the shoulders. One more inhale, and then exhale. Let the eyes wander to the right side of your vision. Inhale the eyes back into the gaze. The gaze turns to face the chest. The torso, inhaling up, comes back to center, past the center, and comes to the right until it stops, or to the left, to the other side. Give yourself a breath or two here, feeling nice and long in the spine. And then exhale. See if the shoulders can just move a little more towards the left. Breathe here a few more breath cycles. And maybe on that very last exhale, your eyes can move to the left most of your vision. And then to come out, bring the eyes back into the gaze. The gaze turns to the chest. The whole torso comes all the way back to center, and we can relax. In here, let's go ahead and let me check on the time. All right. So here we're going to go ahead and come into a half butterfly. So if you're on the chair or if you're on the staff, all we're going to do is externally rotate the one leg. I'm using my left leg, and just turn it until you can rest on the side of that foot. And you might have reached that first edge, and giving yourself another few breaths or so, you may feel that the muscles relax, and you might be able to just turn out just a little bit more. Sometimes we have a little protective mechanism that keeps us from moving in positions we're not used to, whether or not we can actually move further or not. Alrighty, and then we're going to inhale. Bring this internal rotation of the leg back in. Go ahead and tap out that left leg gently. Sit upright once more on the sits bones. Move any flesh if you happen to lose your balance at the sits bones. And then we'll go ahead and inhale and bring the right leg into external rotation. And let the right foot just rest on the right side. Maybe it's just the right outer edge. Maybe it's the entire ankle. And then we're going to inhale, bring the rotation back to center. Tap out the knees. Then give yourself another recheck to reset the sits bones, our home position. And then we're going to slowly externally rotate both legs. See if we can bring the soles of the feet together towards each other. If you can't touch them, that's fine. And as you're in this seated position, you might bring the feet closer into a half butterfly. Into a full butterfly. If your soles of the feet can touch, then you're just going to start to feel where your butterfly can evolve. Does it come a little closer? Do the knees bend and the heels come in a little closer towards the groin for a full butterfly? Or are your legs more of a diamond shape as you're learning to open both sides of the hips? But we're hopefully feeling an upright torso, feeling that extension, external rotation of the hips as our legs are a little extended. And we're keeping our breath in and out comfortably for the next 3 to 5 breath cycles. If you go in a little too deeply, your breath might be more, you might be struggling more with your breath. It's a good time to come out and go back in with less intensity if that's the case. Take your last breath. We'll go ahead and inhale. Assist your knees if you need, but we're going to bring the knees back up to center. The soles of the feet start to come back to the mat. And then if you're in the chair, you can sit there and relax. We're going to come into a spinal twist on our back. Now you can be in the chair and still do the spinal twist. I'll show you in just a moment. Or you can get into your base bridge position. And I see no one is on their chair here, so I'm just going to demonstrate very quickly as soon as we get onto the floor for the rest of us. So coming on to the base bridge position, we're just going to be relaxed on our back and have the knees just about hips distance apart. And if you know your spinal twist, well, like you have a special landing pad, so bringing out your block, or if you like to use your strap, then go ahead and bring out your prop, and we can use that. But just being on our back for the first time, bring out the bridge position so that you can feel that your fingertips are just right there at the heels. They don't have to touch the heels, but you can reach down there. And if you're in chair, all you need to think about doing is extending through one leg. And when you turn over to one side, we're just going to use our hands to hold the base of the chair. And you're just going to twist at the waist and come on down like that. And when we do the other side, you'll extend through the other leg and turn this way. And you'll do it safely here. And you can always stay and hold the breath to your best ability. And if you're on the mat, in your base bridge, and you found your good positioning so that you can inhale and get a hold of your thigh, To assist you, you're just going to start to extend through the right leg. See what's available to you. Here's a good thing, a good time to use your strap. If you can't hold the leg up straight, if it's bent at the knee, that's okay. Just work where you can right there then. We're bringing the thigh eventually to this 90-degree angle, so don't worry about the rest of the leg, but eventually we're just trying to lengthen. Stay where you can deal with the position and breathe. So you might be here. Notice if the left hip is lifted up. We want both of the hips resting, the sacrum fully supported in the base bridge. And once you can extend through that leg, flexing through the ball of the foot with the strap if you need, but flex the foot, point the toe, flex the foot. And then here we're going to lengthen through the left leg. Stay on the chair in that original position that we talked about, but if you're laying on the mat and you want to do that spinal twist over, lengthen the left leg that's going to be down, and you might need to inhale, press out through the left heel, and then exhale, let that left leg just relax. It'll be where it is. And then when you're ready, situate your strap, situate your arms. Arms can be out to a T. And if I can get that strap here, here we go. So usually if I'm holding the strap with my left hand, then I can use my right arm to guide over, and then eventually maybe helping to guide it all the way over. But all we're doing is on an exhale, bringing that leg over to where it can be. You might find your landing pad. You might have that chair there, might have the block. And all we're looking to do is find that rotation at about the waist. But you might find that shoulder lifting up with you as you roll over to the opposite side. That's okay. Eventually, you might be able to have the right shoulder flat on the floor as your leg is on the opposite side. But it just depends on your practice. As you've found your sweet spot, go ahead and breathe 5 full breath cycles, maybe 10 if they're fast. Let's see if you can hear the ocean guiding you to a relaxed state in the spinal twist to the left. Perhaps the gaze is towards the right, perhaps the eyes are soft. And as we prepare to come out of this spinal twist, if you've got the strap, get a hold of the strap, lengthen through the leg. You might even need to use the strap in the hand, just depends, but inhale back to center, the leg comes up, and then you can release that foot back to the mat. Hopefully release the strap. And then bend the left leg, bring it back to the base bridge position. Both knees are pointed towards the ceiling. Make sure the spine and the neck are in alignment. And we'll give ourselves a windshield wipe to the right slowly. Just let the knees drop to the right. And it's like you're rolling to the right side of your feet. Your feet just stay in its general position, just rolling to the edge on the right. You might find the knees dropping a little more with each breath. A few breaths here. We're looking at 3 to 5 breaths. You might find that you can just completely relax both knees to the right side. When you're ready to come up, you're going to engage the core slowly, inhaling. You may even need to help assist the thighs up, but we're going to roll the sacrum back onto the mat. The hips, the back, the knees come up, and then relax. Reset your base if you need to. Make sure the feet are somewhat reachable near your bottom. Feet about hips distance apart. And then we'll move to the other side. So if you need that strap, put it around the thigh to get the thigh into that 90-degree position, or just bring the knee to the 90-degree position so that the thigh can extend the leg all the way out. Wherever you are, just work where you can. Making sure that once you get the leg extended to your best ability, and if it feels better to keep the opposite leg bent at this angle, you can too. You can always just do a one-legged extended spinal twist, but if you can, try to extend that right leg when it's available. And again, inhale, extend through the right leg. If you find that that right knee is very tented, maybe that right calf is just high up on the floor. Maybe it just needs a little time to relax, and it'll be just where it is. And as you are able, get your strap ready, get your arm position together. Inhale, start to roll to the other side. Find that landing spot. You can always use your arms too. You have very different spots. And once you find the edge, the place where you can hold this pose comfortably, and you can focus on the yogic breath, helping you for the next 5 to 10 breath cycles. You can soften the eyes and turn the gaze by the last few breaths. And as you breathe your last inhale and exhale, you come out of a spinal twist. If you have your vision to the left, go ahead and bring your eyes and your gaze and your torso back into alignment. Use your shoulder, your hands to help bring the left leg back to center. Maybe you have your strap. And then go ahead and bend the left knee. Let that left leg come back to the mat. Bend the other knee, bring it back to the base bridge position. Arms are out to the side, palms down. We'll do a slow windshield wipe to the left this time. Use the next few breaths. Let the knees just drop to where they will to the left. Get that nice stretch to the right side of your body. Give it another breath or two. And then you can inhale, assist the knees back up if you need, and come back to your base bridge position. Feet are nice and flat on the mat. And we'll be moving into our Shavasana. So here, just go ahead and slide the legs down. Once you get them back down on the mat, make any movements that feel good to you as you enter the last stage of our practice. Maybe it's an overhead stretch of the arms, pointing of the toes, flexing of the feet. Maybe it's covering yourself up with a blanket, putting some extra cushions under the small of your back, maybe under the knees. I found with tight hips or a tight lower back, having the knees supported by blocks, a bolster, a blanket. If you don't have any of that stuff, you can even just let your knees feet distance apart, hips distance apart like in bridge. You can just let your knees kind of knock inward and rest against each other. You can always rest like this as well. But if you can, try to extend through those legs, and as you're on your back, resting in your final Shavasana, or if you're sitting upright in your chair, just sitting relaxed on your sits bones, stacking the spine on top of the sits bones, you can relax, feeling supported by those major bones. And for the next 5 minutes, let the body respond to today's class. And when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. bringing the mind back to the body, taking note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to your breath. Notice how the air feels as it enters the body, how it feels as it exits the body. And as you reconnect to the body vessel once more, go ahead and make any movement feeling to help you feel your body once more. Wiggle the fingers, the toes, make any rocking motions. We'll meet back in our seated position in staff, easy seated, or you can be in a hero pose. I'm sort of in a fixed fern right now, my hips in between the heels, getting back to our hero position of hips on the heels, and feeling that internal rotation of your thighs. You'll feel a little higher up even with your glutes engaged. So we've got our core nice and firm, and we're going to end class with our pranayama breath of fire exercise. So we do our first set of 20, and hopefully my fingers will be keeping track of all of those. And the very last breath of that 20 breath cycle is usually a drawn out exhale, this. Then you hold it after all that air is gone. You feel almost as if your chin tucking and that pelvic lift of the floor will help hold that energy there for a while. We only hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds. Then we release. When you release, you might even feel yourself lowering down a little bit as you relax your glutes and your belly. We'll do that twice. So beginning with the first one, sitting up nice and tall, engaged core, engaged legs, inner thigh rotation. Go ahead and inhale deeply. Through pursed lips, we'll start now. Fully exhaled. Gently tuck the chin. Hold your pelvic floor. And then exhale, relax slowly. Let your breath return to a natural state. Just a moment. And we'll do our second round. Inhaling nice and tall. Once more, nice and engaged. Sitting upright. Now. Fully exhaled, hold the breath. And then release. Bring hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining us here at the ACC Community Room for Gentle Yoga at noon. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.